It is January 27th at 3 p.m. And we are looking forward to some public hearings today on CSL, EAC governance, and ESDs. We also have some informational meetings today on the Educator Advancement Council and Education Service Districts. So with no further ado, I will open the public hearing on House Bill 2140, the CSL bill, and welcome to the testimony table, the Honorable Governor Tina Kotek. Welcome, Governor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Do you want to do an intro on the bill?
Want to do that?
Sure. House Bill 2140 changes the way the Oregon Department of Administrative Services and the Legislative Fiscal Office estimate the projected costs of programs funded by the State School Fund. It also enacts into law the practice of dividing school districts' state school fund distributions into two portions, 49% in the first year of each biennium and 51% in the second year. The measure declares an emergency and takes effect July 1st, 2025.
Thank you so much, Lisa. And I think before we kick off fully here, just want to acknowledge this is our first hearing of the 2025 session. So getting our land legs under us and ready to launch. This is a bill I care so much about, and I am so excited to start this session with this hearing. So thank you so much for coming, Governor.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. And sorry to jump in there. I needed a reset, so I was like, wait a minute. So thank you for a moment. So I appreciate that. Good afternoon, everyone. Chair Neron, Vice Chairs Dobson and McIntyre. Good to see you. And all members of the committee. It's a pleasure to be here. For the record, I'm Tina Kotek. I am the governor of the great state of Oregon. It's a pleasure to be here. Hope it's not my last visit to this fabulous committee to talk about education this session. I'm here today to testify in support of House Bill 2140. And as you heard from the description, it is about the calculation of the current service level for the state school fund. But I just want to back up. In 2023, while we're in the midst of the Portland Public School strike, I committed to several things, one of which was taking a hard look at the calculation of the current service level for the state school fund, as we know is the base funding for our education in our school districts. And as someone who is, as a legislator for many years, there was always this conversation of, are we calculating it correctly? And after that commitment, my team sat down with the Department of Education, legislators, all kinds of education constituency groups who were like, let's get this right so we can stop having this back and forth conversation all the time about calculating the current service level. And I will say that the current service level calculation was relatively accurate over the years. But when little problems accumulate, biennium after biennium, then you kind of get off. And so this was a conversation of how are we calculating it? How do we reset it? So it is more accurate, is as accurate as possible, providing stability for our education partners at the school district level who need to know that their number more accurately reflects what their base funding needs are. So in this bill, we have two changes. There were a lot of changes we talked about, but it was important to put some of them in statute to, going forward, we're not having this conversation. So some of the questions we asked in the conversation about the current service level is, how do we look at historical data rather than just future data? Historical data kind of setting the course for the future. Looking at inflation appropriately. In this bill, you see the distribution of how you distribute a two-year budget. Looking at the PERS and benefit costs. Looking at how state policy changes have impacted our school budgets. And what we came up with I think, a huge amount of consensus was methodology changes that are designed to provide more accurate and predictable funding for our K-12 public education system. So aligning the reality of how funding is distributed annually to our districts, which is reflected in this bill, capturing the most recent fiscal information by looking back at 10 years of historical data, because before it was much longer, and accounting for forecasting errors that we had accumulated over time and trying to adjust for those. So because of the hard work and a lot of consensus among the folks in the work group, we had a stronger calculation of the current service level that I was able to put in my recommended budget. So there, on top of what would have been the current service level projection, there was an estimated $600 million more added to the current service level for the upcoming biennium, resulting in historic $11.36 billion investment overall. We have someone here from the Chief Financial Office if you have any technical questions about all of this. But in general, what I will say is, at the end of the day, it's not all about the money. It's a two-part equation for me. Our districts need to have stability and predictability. That's what this bill will help do. But we also have to say, when there is more money on the table, what is the accountability? Are we seeing the outcomes connected to that? And I look forward to coming back to this group to talk about the accountability side of the investment to go in tandem with this bill, because it's not just a blank check, it's actually improving our outcomes for our students. So we can do better for our children and youth. We need more predictability. This bill is one piece of the puzzle, and I hope you support it, and I really appreciate the time today and happy to take any questions.
Thank you so much, Governor, for going over some of the work that you've done. Your team has been incredibly engaged on this challenge. I really appreciate that you are taking it on so wholeheartedly and so thoroughly. And this revised methodology that you're recommending is something that I've been studying over the years and advocating for. And I see the work that you've done as starting us off at a much more accurate starting point so that we can instead of talking about what is the right number for current service level calculation, we can talk about what is the right investment potentially. And so your work has, as you've said, dialed in on some accuracy measures really effectively. The way you brought so many people to the table to do this, this teamwork, all the minds in that room made an impact, and you collecting the feedback and putting it into this bill for us, I think will do some of what you mentioned, build the trust, make sure that there's stability and predictability to our budgets for years to come. So I really want to thank you wholeheartedly for the work that you and your team have done. Committee members, are there any questions for the governor about this this HB 2140? Vice Chair McIntyre.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Governor, very much for this. I have a question, and this is just a little bit interesting, because I thought we already did this. And then I heard that we actually distribute 50-50, but ODE distributes to the districts 49-51. And I'm a little bit curious why we've waited so long to do this.
Well, Madam Chair, Vice Chair McIntyre, that's a really good question, because honestly, I got tired of the conversation when I was in this building as a legislator, when it's like, why can't we just do a 49-51? But it was a back and forth, and it was practice.
Okay.
And then it stopped being the practice. And what is also helpful in this bill is it mentions that legislative fiscal will be working with the department, so we're not having any kind of confusion. But by saying we're going to do the 49-51 split, that's a big deal for the districts. I can't tell you why it wasn't done. I mean, I think you just see changing people, but this is how it should get done, and let's put it in the statute.
All right, thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, did you have again?
Sure.
Oh,
Why not?
referee.
You don't have to ask a question.
Make it a hard one.
I was told to ask the most difficult questions to you, Governor.
Okay.
Well, first and foremost, thank you for the work you're doing on this. No question. I think it's just a comment that there is a lot of great positive energy around this change. And I think I hear it from my local school districts across the state of Oregon, and other people who have been working on this. So I just want to give you a big thank you to you and your staff for this work. And I'm excited to figure out how we work this on the other side of the education world, and really eager to have that conversation with all of you as well. And I think this is a right step in the right direction, and our kiddos deserve it. So thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. And I do give a shout out to the team and Pooja Bhatt, who was on my in my office up until recently. She did a lot of work on this, and so a lot of you worked with her. So I want to thank her as well. So thanks.
Absolutely. I think before we end this portion too, I just want to emphasize the current service level and the work that the governor has done is not necessarily the amount that will be allocated. It's not necessarily the ceiling, the quality education model. It is really trying to provide that calculation of what do we need to fund in order to provide the same level of service the following biennium. So for anybody that's sorting out acronyms, CSL and QEM, the current service level is a calculation, and now it's incumbent upon us as a legislature to respond to the governor's recommended budget with our own value set and our own allocation work. But the work that you all have done has really set us up for success and more clarity than we've had in my entire time in the legislature. So thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All
Thank you.
right.
Thank you, everyone.
And we have quite a few people here to testify after you. Thank you for joining us, Governor. Will you be staying? Okay, for a few minutes to hear some of the support. We have, let's call up to the testimony table next. We'll call up Reed Scott Schwalbach and Sarah Wofford. It's good to see you both again. Good to see you. I'm enjoying this, getting back in the swing of hearings.
Yeah, we all are, aren't we? For the record, Chair Neron, Vice Chair Dobson, Vice Chair McIntyre, and members of the House Committee of Education. For the record, my name is Sarah Wofford. I am the Oregon School Employees Association State President. I'm a resident of Grants Pass, which is in Josephine County. On behalf of the over 25,000 classified staff that OSEA represents in all 36 counties in Oregon and in nearly all levels of Oregon, public education, including Head Start programs, K-12 school districts, education service districts, charter schools, special districts like Park and Rec, and community colleges. Thank you for the opportunity to testify in support of House Bill 2140. House Bill 2140 has been the result of historic partnership with the governor's office and education advocates to ensure more stable funding for our schools. OSEA would like to thank the governor for, personally, hi, thanks, for inviting us to participate in this meaningful process. House Bill 2140 seeks to create more accurate costs for programs which are funded by the State School Fund by having the Department of Administrative Services and the Oregon Department of Education take into account the projected local revenues. It also bases its projections off the second year of the current biennium. Currently, the assumption is that the current service level, CSL, I've heard it's good to leave acronyms at home, calculations is that costs in schools will remain in the same to operate year to year. But as we all know, student enrollment can change on a year-to-year basis, and this has a huge impact on the amount of staff that a school needs. Student demographics can change, and if the rate of higher needs students goes up, there again, it becomes an increased need for the staff. By basing the projection off the second year of the biennium, House Bill 2140 creates a more accurate picture of what the real needs in our schools are over a 2-year budgeting cycle. House Bill 2140 also changes how ODE will distribute the funds from the SSF to school districts by allocating 49% of the available amounts to the first year biennium and 51% to the second year. This ensures stable funding is provided in the first year and accounts for the fact that the costs are often increased by the second year. In legislation, this goes a long way towards creating a more stable and forward-looking education funding model in Oregon, which we will acknowledge with the many changes that can happen on a year-to-year basis. We appreciate the governor's inclusive process of bringing organizations that represent classified staff, teachers, school boards, and administrators to the table while working to address these issues. OSEA knows that together we can create a more equitable funding model that will help create stability in our districts and a more comprehensive education system for our students. We respectfully urge that you support House Bill 2140 to better address our schools' funding needs, and I want to thank you again to Chair Neron, Vice Chair Dobson, Vice Chair McIntyre, members of the committee for the opportunity to testify in support of this.
Thank you so much.
Chair Neron, members of the committee, thank you as well for the opportunity to testify to this important bill. For the record, my name is Reed Scott Schwalbach, and I'm the president of the Oregon Education Association. I'm celebrating 25 years as an Oregon educator this year. OEA represents 42,000 educators across Oregon. That includes community college members, bus drivers, school custodians, school classroom teachers, nurses in the schools, and 38,000 of our members are in our neighborhood K-12 schools. We support House Bill 2140, and I'd like to say a huge thank you to everyone who has participated in the conversations that have led to this House bill. We've been advocating for these changes for years, and House Bill 2140 represents a vast improvement for our students and the schools where they learn and grow. First and foremost, thank you to Governor Kotek. Thank you for being the leader that we needed to bring people together around this topic and drive towards a solution that best serves our students. Secondly, thank you to State CFO Kate Nass for leading the conversation, and thank you to the staff at DAS and LFO for their willingness to engage. We have been raising our concerns about the previous methods of calculating CSL for many years. The top concerns have been these elements of the calculation: the 51% jump-off point from the previous biennium, which you've been hearing a lot about, and the lack of forward-looking blended compensation model. House Bill 2140 addresses the jump-off point. The former process used 50% of the previous biennium's allocation as the starting point, which worked for other government departments because of their large cost driver raises. They were covered under a side account of money known as a salary pot. Schools don't have a salary pot, meaning starting at 50% was in effect a multi-$100 million budget cut. House Bill 2140 represents real progress on improving the accuracy of the calculation to state school funds CSL. By codifying the 51% jump-off point, we ensure that future legislators can have an accurate picture of what it takes for our public schools to maintain current service level needs for the current students in the classrooms. And this will allow the legislature to have a conversation about what investments could look like, rather than an argument about if basic needs are being met. We urge your support of House Bill 2140. We urge the support of the entire legislature for the House bill, and we believe it's a critical improvement to our funding mechanism for K-12 schools. Thank you so much for your work, and thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you so much. Committee members, any questions for this panel? All right. Next up at the testimony table, we will hear from Elizabeth Howe and Whitney Grubbs.
Good afternoon, Chair Neron, Vice Chairs Dobson and McIntyre. For the record, my name is Whitney Grubbs. I'm the Executive Director of Foundations for a Better Oregon, or FBO. FBO is a partnership of 5 Oregon philanthropic organizations committed to ensuring Oregon's system supports every child to learn, grow, and thrive. I am here today in support of HB 2140. This bill is a critical step forward on 2 fronts: by increasing transparency and improving the CSL process, and by providing increased financial stability for our K-12 school system. A robust and successful K-12 public school system requires sufficient resources, and Oregon has made great strides on that front over the past decade, both through significant increases in the state school fund and through the Student Success Act. We know that increased resources are necessary, but resources alone do not guarantee successful outcomes and positive experiences for all Oregon children. Currently, our student outcomes are largely stagnant, and too often they're predicted by a student's race, ethnicity, socioeconomic or disability status, or simply where they live or where they go to school. Research is clear. High-performing education systems require consistency, focus, collaboration, and accountability. For too long, Oregon has been stuck in a mindset of compliance that is not only ineffective, but also overly burdensome to educators and school leaders. With this new CSL creating a strong foundation, the time is now to align around a clear system of expectations and supports that can accelerate improvement in all 197 of our school districts. We can continue to honor local context and community strengths while also building a backstop of state accountability that ensures all Oregon's children can learn, grow, and thrive. Thank you for your time, and please support House Bill 2140.
Thank you, Whitney.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, my name is Elizabeth Howe. I'm here representing Stand for Children. I will point you to a letter on the record from our Executive Director, Sarah Pope. In summary, Stand for Children supports House Bill 2140. In a budget-making process where House Bill 2140 is in place, K-12 advocates and policymakers could turn our attention to ensuring that the amount invested in Oregon's education system is leading to strong outcomes. Stand for Children remains concerned that while the state's investment in K-12 education in Oregon has been climbing for over a decade, our student outcomes have not been. By addressing adequacy concerns through these adjustments, we are hopeful that policymakers can act to drive the outcomes our students deserve. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. Committee members, any questions for this panel? All right, thank you for your testimony. And the last panel today will be Lori Sattenspiel and Morgan Allen. Come on down.
Good afternoon, Chair Neron, members of the committee. For the record, my name is Morgan Allen with the Coalition of Oregon School Administrators. We represent about 3,000 school principals, superintendents, and other district administrators. And we're here today to share our support for House Bill 2140 and to share our sincere appreciation for the work that Governor Kotek and her team have done leading up to her recommended budget and the creation of House Bill 2140. I've submitted some written testimony, but I think I'll just cut to the chase. This is a significant step forward in the state budgeting process. And I think we haven't fully been able to digest what this is going to mean going forward, not only for this biennium, but future bienniums. There are those of us, a couple of us at the dais, that have spent the better part of close to a decade having these arguments. And I can just think of all the wasted time, hours of arguing over numbers and spreadsheets, and all that time that we could have been using instead proactively to focus on making investments in our schools, that this gives us back. So this session, we're going to be able to have a real conversation about funding special education services, talking about the 11% cap, talking about the high cost disability count, talking about early intervention, early childhood special education, and regional inclusive services. We're going to have time to talk about the proposals that many of us, including COSA, support in the governor's recommended budget, like summer learning and early literacy, instead of wasting weeks and months arguing over where we should start the state school fund number on. So I don't want to undersell that. I know other people have alluded to that. Chair Neron, you've alluded to that. But hopefully this charts a course where we can have that conversation both about funding and accountability, which we know is probably another day. We're looking forward to that conversation as well. But I just wanted to put that on the record in addition to all my other exciting remarks that I put in my written testimony. I will not force you to listen to them, but just want to thank the governor and her team. And again, this is a gigantic step forward. I don't want to undersell it. It will be a hugely transformational thing for our schools and our kids. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Morgan. I want to agree with you that this is going to be transformational to the way we spend our time in this legislative process as well. And just really uplift the work of the group that put this together, and also call out the fact that this is one piece in all of the work that we need to do to make sure that we are providing that consistency, accountability, collaboration that Whitney just talked about as well, because there's so much more work to do. But when we put all those puzzle pieces together, ideally we are seeing those outcomes and the accountability that Oregon kids deserve. Thank you.
Chair Neron, Vice Chair McIntyre and Dobson. Lori Sattenspiel here on behalf of the Oregon School Boards Association in support of House Bill 2140. And again, thank you, Governor. This, I don't want to repeat anything, and everything's been said. I just want to say, I had the seat at the table, and I was thrilled to be there to work with the agencies to come up and have the discussions about what the funding is about, what we need from the spreadsheets, our spreadsheets, their spreadsheets, and as Morgan said, really talk through it. Personally, this is, again, the first session that the starting point hasn't been of great contention with all of the advocacy groups. The one pager that the governor's office put up, I think, says it very well, updating the process for calculating. We're not agencies, and calculating those state school fund roll-ups is a bit more complicated. I'd like to see, and we hope that we can continue to meet and engage in this work as it moves forward. And I really appreciated meetings early in the process so we could actually not be a drag on that the regular DAS process for calculations. So I appreciate that. I want to end on one note. What came up during the meetings, we didn't have time to dig into, there was a lot of stuff, but I'm just going to flag this because it means a lot to me. How does the roll-up work? How will it work moving forward with unresourced education mandates? The policies that you all pass, but there's no resources attached to implement. I think that's a drag on the system, and I just want to hope we can find a way to put those in place so that accountability that we're after is a two-way look and reciprocal, and we really want to do what's best for kids. Again, thank you. I just wanted to close for everybody that's been involved in this, and a great step forward for all students in the education system. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony today. I want to celebrate the things that you are also highlighting and emphasize that there's always going to be more to do, and that is why we show up and do this work every day, because we believe that there is work undone and we can always make a better process. So really appreciate this step forward. Thank you for joining us, Governor. Committee members, any questions for this panel? All right. And with that, I will close the public hearing on House Bill 2140. And we'll have a moment to transition. And next up, we are going to hear from the Educator Advancement Council. So I'm going to open an informational meeting on the Educator Advancement Council and welcome back to the testimony table Dr. Karen Perez, Director of the EAC, the Educator Advancement Council, who we just saw recently. We get a little walk-on music.
Like WWE, your own entrance.
Very culturally appropriate for my family.
Welcome back to the Education Committee. We are looking forward to learning from your presentation about what the Educator Advancement Council offers to the state of Oregon. And committee members, if you can hold your questions till the end. And then we do have a bill relative to the Educator Advancement Council that we will hear just after this. But for now, it is the informational meeting, and take it away.
Thank you. Chair Neron, Vice Chair Dobson, and Vice Chair McIntyre, members of the House Education Committee. Buenas tardes, good afternoon. For the record, my name is Dr. Karen Perez, and I am the Executive Director of the Educator Advancement Council as of July of 2024. I'm here to share a little bit today about what we do. Last time I shared who we serve, but I want to talk about what we do as the Educator Advancement Council. For those that were not here last time, the Educator Advancement Council of Oregon serves and aims to serve the 80,000 educators and teacher candidates, pre-K through 12, with access to high-quality professional learning, local and statewide networking opportunities, and trainings across the educator continuum. From the moment that an individual enters the education preparation pathway to when they enter their first classroom, or when they decide to move or advance in their work, the EAC is tasked with creating opportunities for career pathway and advancement in educator career. This means streamlining career pathways into and through educator career, which provides financial resources and other supports to achieve an educator workforce that is equity-driven and more reflective of the pre-K-12 student demographics. Second, we work to elevate educator voice and leadership. This ensures the voices of classroom teachers and other educators are regularly included in decision-making processes regarding professional learning priorities, educator supports, and policies impacting educators at the schools, district, and region across our entire state. We also work to enhance district and educator preparation partnerships, we create a deeper partnership between pre-kindergarten service, tribes, districts, community colleges, universities to promote interest in education profession, coordinate educator preparation efforts, and share data sets needed to achieve a high pool of diverse and effective educator professionals in our state. We also support creating and equity-driven high-quality professional learning.
This means that we identify and expand professional learning models across the state that support pre-K-12 educators, administrators, and other educators to design and implement equity-driven, high-quality professional learning that is aligned to state-adopted professional learning standards to improve student outcomes. And lastly, we work to move forward retention efforts of our more than 80,000 educators here in Oregon and teacher candidates by improving and expanding models that provide all novice educators access to high-quality mentoring, professional development, and supports during their first 3 years of that promote effective practices and increase educator retention. The structure of the Educator Advancement Council is quite unique. It actually centers, the EAC is a unique educator-centered decision-making body that directs the use of the resources from P20 Educator Workforce Development. It's comprised of 25 board members. The council has representation from across the educator continuum that includes, that you will see here in the dark blue, and the gray, philanthropy, our 9 federally recognized tribes, educator prep programs, professional education associations, as well as practitioners from early learning to K-12 educators, classified and both certified. District and ESD superintendents, and school board members that serve as rotating directors with 2-year terms. Through an intergovernmental agreement, the council also has representation from 4 state agencies who impact education in Oregon directly: the Department of Early Learning and Care, the Higher Education Coordinating Commission, Teacher Standards and Practices, and the Department of Education that you can see here in dark blue. Later today, you'll be hearing about testimony on House Bill 3041, which removes the use of the intergovernmental agreement and instead establishes a council in a state statute maintaining its existing purpose and authority and makeup. In addition, the EAC counts with 3 ex officio positions noted here in dark green that include state representatives, state senator, and the governor's office representative. As administrator agent of the council, the Oregon Department of Education is directed by statute to perform certain functions in support of the strategic direction of the council. The council is staffed by ODE employees, and the executive director is a member of the ODE executive team. The executive director is hired by and reports to the deputy superintendent of public instruction, who is the director of ODE. The Educator Advancement Council theory of change really is focused on improving Oregon students' success by creating space of continuous learning for scaling up best practices. The continuous learning includes a focus on educator professional growth and supports, as well as the improvement of systems and practices. The EAC functions in grant and aid programs. Our core grant and aid program is a regional education networks. Oregon Regional Education Networks is a crucial step to strengthen the state's educator workforce and ensure high-quality, culturally responsive professional development for educators throughout their careers. The activities and outcomes of the RENs demonstrates their flexibility in addressing local needs and fostering innovation to improve educator effectiveness and student outcomes. In 2023, the RENs funded 165 different statewide projects, which included and ranged from initiatives such as mentoring, professional learning series, instructional coaching, collaborative structures for educators, and RENs prioritize professional learning opportunities investments of $9 million to support educator growth programs. The 10 regional partnerships known as the RENs serve all 197 school districts and are focused on centering educator voice and prioritizing the development of systems and supports across the educator career continuum. And that can lead to high quality in every classroom here in Oregon. RENs function under coordinating bodies that bring together educators and key system partners to look at data, discuss needs, and identify regional priorities for use of the funding. As we move into more alignment and accountability for our RENs, professional learning plan activities can be implemented through regional projects. That means that it can be implemented that facilitates all districts in that region to participate. It could also be district projects. Implementing is facilitated across 2 or more schools with the district. It could be a school project, facilitating a single school. Or it could be in consortiums of projects, implementing and facilitating across 2 or more districts. And lastly, it could be across regional projects, meaning across different RENs. This flexibility allows districts to really hone in on the needs that are for their local areas. If we think about the 23-24 biennium, RENs have accelerated progress by supporting over 13,000 TSPC licensed and non-licensed educators with high focus on rural educators, educators of color, and educators who support special education. The REN's work included supporting recruitment efforts, supporting mentoring efforts of novice teachers and administrators, funding 165 professional learning projects for educators across the state, and included learning series, professional development, and mentoring among the key areas of prioritization. Another grant, our next grant and aid program is Educator Advancement Grow Your Own Partnerships. Nationally, more than 30 states, including Oregon, fund Grow Your Own initiatives and are seeing improved recruitment and retention outcomes, particularly in high-needed workforce areas, such as rural remote educators, special education, dual language, multi-language educators, and educators whose lived experience match and mirror those of students identified in Oregon Student Success Plan. Our Grow Your Own partnerships are local and regional partnerships designed to address conditions affecting the recruitment and retention of educators here in Oregon. Grow Your Own programs provide critical supports to current school district staff pursuing post-secondary degree to advance their careers through supports including, again, mentoring, professional development, financial supports, and paid release time for Grow Your Own participants to meet academic and licensure or certification requirements. The Student Success Act, House Bill 3427 in 2019, directed the state educator agencies to develop a plan to provide programs and initiatives for professional development of educators funded by the statewide education initiatives, accounting toward increasing educator retention, educator diversity, mentoring, and coaching. The educator participants in this program, participants in preparation programs, and educator scholarships. The plan approved by legislators in 2020 identified Grow Your Own programs as the model for retention and fostering the talent and strengths of local potential educators, including early learning and career and care educators. Since 2020, we've founded partnerships between school districts, tribal governments, community-based philanthropic organizations, post-secondary and early learning institutions. For the 23-25 biennium, 29 grantees were awarded an Educator Advancement Council Grow Your Own grant. Grantees included community college, ESDs, school districts, public universities, community-based organizations, and all 8 tribes. Grantees work in partnership with multiple partners to provide support, Grow Your Own partnerships. On this slide, you can see that Grow Your Own programs are successfully addressing urgent workforce shortages in school districts, support improve retention by providing novice educators with professional development, mentoring, and coaching, supporting educators on emergency licenses, ensuring they receive adequate preparation to support completion of their licensure. Grow Your Own programs are growing local pools of qualified future educators to fill ongoing workforce needs. Grow Your Own participants receive financial, professional, mentoring, and academic supports toward completion of higher education and licensure. Grow Your Own participants include high school students and classified staff who are pursuing credentials, completing prerequisite courses, enrolled in participation preparation programs, and exploring educator careers. Grow Your Own programs are developing systemic solutions, support recruitment and retention of educators by building high-quality local and regional partnerships for cohesive state systems of early learning through K-12 preparation and support. Grow Your Own programs are increasing access to supporting candidates for the completion of traditional licensure programs, as well as partnering to develop non-traditional licensure programs. According to research, the Educator Commission of the states, Grow Your Own programs can lead to better teacher retention and can help diversify the teacher workforce. Thinking alongside the Educator Advancement Council Grow Your Own grants not only includes a focus on licensed teachers, but also educator candidates who are pursuing careers in early learning, administration, counseling, social work, school nurses, and other licensed or certified positions to improve current workforce needs in the schools in our communities. With continued funding, we are at the forefront of strengthening and expanding the success of high-to-fill positions, such as Grow Your Own partnerships to support the school-based health workforce, rural, and other programs. The EAC also has grant and aid programs that come from one-time funds, such as Tribal Nations Collaborative. During the 23-25 biennium, the EAC invested $3.4 million for the 9 federally recognized tribes of Oregon to develop Tribal Nation Grow Your Own partnerships. Tribes are developing programs based on their specific community needs. In addition, the EAC is supporting Senate Bill 283, Beginning Educator Mentoring, with one-time grants. This one-time funding has allowed the Educator Advancement Council to staff to bring back mentoring across the state as it was before we were even funded. Finally, the EAC works in collaboration with the Higher Education Coordination Commission, the Teacher Standards and Practices Commission, and the Oregon Department of Education, highlighting the reinforcing our cross-agency shared responsibility to reach the state's educator workforce goals. With the HEC, the EAC collaborates on the Oregon Teacher Scholars Program and the Oregon Public Educators Preparation Program Equity Plans. With TSPC, the EAC collaborates on Oregon Administrator Scholar Program, Oregon Licensure Reinforcement Program, multiple measures, and registered apprenticeship programs. With the Oregon Department of Education, the Educator Advancement staff currently supports the implementation of Senate Bill 283, Workforce Survey and Data Systems, and the Educator Advancement staff is now leading the implementation of Professional Learning Platform and that of the Special Education Staff Stipend. Thank you again for your time today. I hope this presentation will help you see how the work funded through the Educator Advancement Council program, such as the RENS, Grow Your Owns, and other of our grants and aid programs, are really there to serve the retention of our over 80,000 educators and teacher candidates in Oregon. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Perez. And I want to open it up for questions in just a moment. I'm wondering if you can give us, kind of walk us through like one example of how this could be, how an educator could experience support from the Educator Advancement Council.
Yeah. So if we have, for example, in the Hillsborough School District, you would have a high school student that might be interested in participating as an educator, and they have a program where they actually move their student can enter a preparation program, and then during the summer they would actually go and work for the Hillsborough School District, and some of this funding could come through the Willamette through their ESD and grant and aid. It could also support once they start their schooling, working with Western Oregon, for example, and work with supporting scholarships, or they might work with as they move into their, if we think about over in Northwest Regional ESD, the students would have wraparound supports through the Grow Your Own programs where they might get scholarships to be able to apply to a program and then have affinity spaces or mentoring and coaching to get them through actual preparation programs. And once they're in the program, they can have a cohort of people that wrap around them and support with either their mentoring or kind of coaching through. And if they need professional development, maybe on, it would be around behavior management. That's something that they can get. Another way that the Educator Advancement Council supports educators is if they need a community of practice to come together around a certain area of work, maybe that they're having difficulty in. You can bring nurses together to think about how do you serve in larger areas. You can bring educators together, depending on what their needs are, to get professional learning in a specific area that can support their growth as well. So those are just, it depends on which area of the state you're in. It depends on what the needs are of that educator. But the main idea is to wrap around the needs that they have in order to be a successful educator for our students.
Thank you so much. Committee members, are there questions for Dr. Perez? Let's start with Representative Ruiz and then Representative Wright.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Dr. Perez, for this presentation. I am wondering if you have any data information on the progress on the Grow Your Own initiatives and programs and the teacher retention. stuff.
Yeah.
I would love to see kind of like where we are, how are we doing? What's the progress with this? As in, I have a second question, but I don't know if you have an answer.
Great. Chair Nero, Vice Chair Dobson, and Vice Chair McIntyre, and members of, and Representative Rees. I can get you actually exact numbers to share with you after this from our staff.
Awesome. And then second question. Absolutely. Okay. You mentioned Senate Bill 283. Is that a new bill that is coming up, or is this?
Yeah, Senate Bill 283 was a one-time fund for mentoring.
Wait, it's one from a previous session.
Okay, maybe. Okay,
sorry.
gotcha. I just wanted to make sure because I looked it up. I'm like, wait a minute, but never mind. I'm good.
Thank you.
Oh, I thought, did you want to respond a little bit more to connect it to 283?
The mentoring?
I was just confused because I didn't have like a year on like 283. So
got
I was
it.
assuming that it was a 2025 bill.
Got
when
it.
I looked it up, it says related to healthcare. I'm like, this doesn't
no.
match.
For this one, for the Senate bill, we have 33 grantees identified through non-competitive application process, 9 regional education networks representing a consortium of 24 school districts, and there's actually supporting 1,300 plus beginning teachers, administrators, with approximately 500 different mentors that are wrapping around our educators.
Yeah, thank you so much. And so we passed Senate Bill 283 in 2023, and it had a lot of teacher supports in there, including that mentoring work. So as you phrased it, we're supporting 283. We're supporting the work that was outlined in 283 through your work. Thank you for your questions. And as you respond with those detailed numbers, I'd love it if you could also copy the Legislative Policy Research Office, and they can share it out with the committee as well. So Lisa Gazelter can share with our House Ed team. Representative Wright.
Thank you, Chair. I'm very interested. First of all, I'd like to just sit down and talk with you a little bit
that'd be
more
great.
about this whole process, but and hopefully we'll get to do that. I'm very interested in the mentoring as not only for retention and but the idea of specific. Well, I was on the Governor's Council for Literacy, K-5, and we have the standards going and they will be implemented by 2027. But my concern is that that same training that our new teachers are getting are not necessarily implemented in the classrooms right now. So is this the kind of program that's going to meet the needs of our teachers who need it, in making sure that we have a consistent methodology coming from our colleges who are teaching the science of reading in one way, and making sure that our classroom teachers have that same background and skill building, if that makes sense.
Yeah, Chair Neron, Vice Chair Dobson, and Vice Chair McIntyre. Representative Wright, what I heard you ask about was how does this mentoring program support something like the new early literacy standards and the needs for teachers to be consistent in their methodology. We're actually working in collaboration. The EAC is working in collaboration with TSPC. We just met, including this week, in the governor's office to think about what those standards are and how are we going to work on that alignment together. One place where we see that the EAC can come in, because this is one-time funds for this mentoring, but one way that we can do it is through the professional learning platform. So we're thinking about how can we use a professional learning platform that we're hoping to implement this year in collaboration, not only with TSPC and the standards, aligning it that way, but also in collaboration with the Office of Teaching, Learning, and Assessment, so that the standards and the goals and the professional development that they've developed and the professional development that's been developed by the multilingual department for Spanish literacy, for example, could all be a part of this platform, and so that we can get it out for free across all educators, not only the ones in districts, but also we have a large number of educators who are licensed but aren't currently connected to a district, so they would have access. And all these pieces that we're working on could be collected in this professional learning platform, like collecting the PDUs of that, who's taken what classes, and then that's going to be connected to TSPC and can be given back to the districts as well, to think about how the accountability, how are we tracking all these trainings and who's taking these trainings. So the Educator Advancement Council, again, works closely with these other agencies to think through and I meet regularly with Ben and Melissa and the E-team, but thinking about how can we really work together on these things to really do what you just described.
Good to hear. Thank you.
Thank you for these questions. We'll do one more question from Vice Chair McIntyre, and then we'll go to your bill hearing.
Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Perez. I also would probably like some time with you, so I'm going to kind of ask you like a hard question, and if you want to answer me later, that's totally fine. So I'm a little bit curious on your one slide where you're showing the 29 grantees and the 8 tribes, and at the bottom it says 8 school districts, and I'm a little bit curious. I don't hear about the EAC in my area at all.
Yes.
And I am wondering how you are serving all of our schools. If it says 80 school districts are regularly involved, but there's 197 school districts. And I know you are new and I know you're taking on a big thing. And so I'm wanting more information about how the EAC, you guys have a big budget, you've been tasked with a big thing, is actually being used and utilized effectively and efficiently by all of our school districts that is better than what they were doing previously.
Yeah, thank you. Chair Neron, Vice Chair Dobson, Vice Chair McIntyre, I love your question. And because as soon as I came on the Educator Advancement Council, that was one of the things of like, how do we get this information to all districts, right? Like, how does everybody participate? How does every educator hear about this and know that there's a scholarship or that there's mentoring? And so since I started, we've been going, there's a couple things. One, and I can give you more details, but just kind of quickly, is getting the word out to going to every single REN, Regional Education Network, and talking to every single educator or coordinating body to let them know of the possibilities that are out there. And with those new plans that are being developed, there's multiple options of how districts can participate, sharing that, going to COSA and letting COSA off the record meeting and letting them know, here's the different models that can be. If you're not currently connected, there's options for how you can connect and come to, call us and we'll get you connected to your REN and figure out how to work those pieces out. We have some regional education networks that are just like, this is the best thing ever. And others, like you said, are like, I don't know how to connect yet. So that's where our work, when we started during COVID, we weren't necessarily, it was like everybody's trying to do school, right? During COVID, the Educator Advancement was taking off during that time. But over this last biennium, we have started to connect with more and more districts and are growing, and our data is showing that. So we'll have a legislative report that gives you all more details that's coming on February 15th. That gives you the details of where we are, where we've been, where we're going, and how we see the future. But really getting the word out of how I can connect to educators, how I can connect to the ESDs is my work right now, of going out and sharing this information so that people do know. We're going to the Multilingual Conference to talk to educators. We're going to Oregon Association of Bilingual Education to talk to educators. We're going to Oregon Association of Latino Administrators Conference. We're going to HR, to the COSA conference that's coming up, that's with HR directors, so that they can know how to connect. And again, working with COSA, OSBA, OEA, and other agencies so that they know how to connect. And really getting our name out and having them come and connect with us to ask questions. So I look forward to meeting with you soon on Thursday.
Perfect.
Oh, okay. Nice. Excellent. All right. Thank you so much for answering our questions. And committee members, if you have any follow-up questions that you think of that you'd like to run through Lisa Gezelter, she can share those answers back with the committee if you want to send them through Lisa. Otherwise, you can reach out directly to Dr. Perez. With that, I am going to close the informational meeting on the Educator Advancement Council and open a public hearing on House Bill 3041, the EAC governance. Dr. Perez alluded to the fact that we have this bill coming today. And we are going to learn a little bit about it and just 2 testimonies at the end of this. So